What if I told you that archaeologists just uncovered a 2,000-year-old garden right under one of the holiest churches in the world? And not just any church. This one's believed to be the place where Jesus was crucified, buried, and resurrected. Yup, this garden was found directly beneath the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem. And according to the Gospel of John, Jesus' tomb was located in a garden. So now the question is, did scientists just confirm a detail of the Bible buried in plain sight for 2,000 years? Let's break it down. Now, before we dive into what they found, let's set the scene. The Church of the Holy Sepulchre sits in Jerusalem's Old City. Christians have believed for centuries that it marks both Golgotha, the site of Jesus' crucifixion, and the nearby tomb where he was buried. It's been a destination for pilgrims for over 1,600 years. The original church was built in the 4th century by Emperor Constantine, whose mother Helena believed this was the site of Jesus' death and resurrection. Over the centuries, the church was destroyed, rebuilt, renovated, but its location never changed. Because of its sacred status, almost no one was ever allowed to dig under it, until now. So how did archaeologists manage to pull off a dig under the floor of such a holy site? In 2019, the churches that share control of the building finally agreed to a long-needed renovation. The stone floor hadn't been replaced in nearly 200 years. With the floor coming up anyway, archaeologists requested permission to examine what lay underneath. Shockingly, the religious leaders said yes. And in 2022, the quiet, careful excavation began. Now here's where it gets tricky. How do you dig beneath a church packed with pilgrims every day? The team worked section by section, opening small areas of the floor without interrupting worship. They paused for major holidays like Easter. Every part they opened, they later sealed back up. This wasn't Indiana Jones, it was more like surgery, slow, delicate, precise. And then they found it. Deep in the soil were microscopic traces of ancient pollen and plant matter from olive trees and grapevines. Lab tests showed these plants grew here roughly 2,000 years ago. Beneath the church, hidden for millennia, was the signature of a real ancient garden. Not a courtyard, but cultivated land with olives and grapes like a vineyard or orchard. Now here's where it gets wild. The Gospel of John says, at the place where Jesus was crucified, there was a garden, and in the garden a new tomb. For ages, that verse was treated as poetic wording. But now it appears to be literally true. Beneath the church, scientists uncovered the very type of garden the Gospel describes, exactly where early Christians said it would be. They didn't find a sign saying Jesus was buried here, but they found the landscape, the garden next to the tomb. And this is just one part of the story. Let's rewind. Long before any church stood here, the area was an Iron Age stone quarry. Eventually, it was abandoned. By the early 1st century, the time of Jesus, the land had become a garden and burial ground. Rock-cut tombs lined the area just outside Jerusalem's walls. That's the environment described in the crucifixion narrative. 3 centuries later, Constantine's builders cleared the site, found a tomb carved into the rock, and built the church over it. The structure was rebuilt many times, but the location never changed. Same rock, same soil, same tomb. The archaeologists also uncovered more surprises. They found an ancient circular marble foundation likely belonging to the original 4th century shrine over the tomb. They discovered a stash of Roman-era coins left untouched since the 300s AD. They found pottery, oil lamps, glass fragments, and even animal bones, remains of meals eaten by monks and pilgrims long ago. Some fish bones came from oceans thousands of miles away, showing how far travelers journeyed to reach this place. So does this prove Jesus was buried here? Not exactly. Archaeology can't confirm theological claims. But it does prove that the biblical description, a garden beside a rock-cut tomb outside the city, matches perfectly with what the dig uncovered. And it strongly suggests that early Christians preserved the correct location. One archaeologist noted that the true treasure is the centuries of faith that shaped this site. In the end, this discovery doesn't rewrite the story of Jesus, but it roots it more firmly in real history. It reminds us that the gospel unfolded in a real city with real soil, real tombs, and maybe real olive trees whose traces still linger in the dirt. Beneath centuries of stone and devotion, the ancient garden still remains. And somehow, that makes the story, whether approached through faith or history, feel more alive than ever. Thanks for watching, stay curious, and I'll see you in the next one.